There's always something, Gary. Do you remember me saying to you, I've just changed the video?
Yeah, you will still not put your face on it.
Do you know what? Let me just check in with you and see how you're doing. Hi, and by the way, this is the Positive Echo podcast. Slightly earlier than usual. It's great to be here. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm very well. Yeah, it's a cooler day today, but the house has absorbed all this heat and it's just pumping it back into the rooms. And I can't have the window open because all the airplane noise and so on. But generally speaking, life is good. And you?
It seems you have much hotter weather than I do here with my Atlantic breeze on this coast of Portugal. Other places in Portugal are getting 40 plus.
Yeah.
Where we got a nice sea breeze here in the town that you know and love.
Yeah, we were about 33 yesterday, but it was really humid and zero wind.
Brilliant. We got a great guest lined up today to talk to. And I found the video, Gary. So shall I run the video and we'll pretend nothing happened? We'll pretend we didn't do that bit.
Let's just go on with it.
Oh, I went to so much trouble. 10 seconds. Just give me 10 seconds,
all
please.
Right, go for it.
All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the Positive Echo podcast with a new video. How about that?
That was really quick producing, I have to say.
Yes. Thank you. Right, let's not waste any more of his time. Tell us about our guest today, Gary.
Vikas Narula. I met Vikas maybe at least 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I'd found him, I think, via LinkedIn. And it was early days when he'd started his company called Key Hubs. And I was fascinated about leadership and how to engage people within organizations. And that's exactly what Key Hubs does. And we may well get to chat a little bit about Key Hubs during this hour. Yep. But the other thing that is amazing is he and his life partner, Priya, have started this organization called Neighbourhood Forest. And the concept is you put a tree, a sapling, in the hands of every child once a year, Earth Day, and they go and plant it in their neighborhood.
Fantastic.
And Vikas is going to tell us just how far this project has got. It's amazing. Talk about global positive echo.
That is a positive echo and a half. I'm not crying, you are. I just love the idea. Okay, let's give him a nice big round of applause. Vikas, hello.
Hello, Carl. Hi, Gary. Thank you for that kind
of
great to be here.
From Minneapolis in the USA at 9 o'clock in the morning, I believe. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah. You got a busy day ahead?
Yeah, always busy.
Yeah, I know you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'd like to do, I mean, I've given you my sort of 2 cents description of you and what I know of you, but maybe you could just give us a little bit more of your background and what drives you?
Wow, that's a deep question.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. What drives me? Well, I think we can start with that. I think that's a really good opener. I think I'm driven by joy and purpose and connection. I think these are some core values of mine. But yeah, I spent 15 years working in corporate America, working for some software startup companies. And some of it was invigorating, but a lot of it wasn't very joyful and didn't really align with my my passion. And about 16 years ago, I had kind of a midlife wake-up call. I ended up getting sick and had to take medical leave from work. I was bedridden for a month. And that's when I thought a lot about what would I do if I could do it over again. And I've always loved trees ever since I was a little kid, climbing in them. And some of my happiest memories were just hanging out in a tree as a child. And when I was in university in Fairfield, Iowa at Maharishi International University, I got involved in environmentalism and planted some of my first trees. I had heard about a project. Myself and this club that I was a part of had heard about a man from Ohio who had started the first American free tree program. He really, I think, came up with this concept of raising money, buying tree seedlings, and giving them away for free. He was from Ohio. He ended up planting millions of trees this way. And so we were super inspired by his work and adopted his program and at our university, and we did the same thing. We would raise money, plant seedlings, give away seedlings. We called it the Southeast Iowa Free Tree Project. And this just left a lasting impression on me. It was a project I did for 3 years in college, and even after I graduated and went into taking a corporate job, this project was always imprinted on my heart. And then when I had this midlife wake up call, and I thought about, well, what would I do differently if I could do it over again? My heart and mind kept coming back to this project. The smiling faces of the kids. I had also been tracking the trees I had planted in college, and they had grown, into these majestic beauties. And so in my sickness and despair, I was like, you know what? I want to rekindle that project. Maybe if I start now, it will be something that keeps me busy in retirement. And that was, I was 37 at the time, and yeah, that's how Neighborhood Forest was born. And Key Hub started around the same time, and 6 months after that deathbed experience, if you will, things kind of aligned, and I ended up, quitting my job to pursue Key Hubs full time. Neighborhood Forest was still kind of this family hobby project, but yeah. And so since then, my wife and I have been, entrepreneurs working for ourselves, and it's really been an amazing, difficult, challenging, wonderful journey of growth, of learning, of self-determination, of impact, purpose, and all the things that really drive me, right? The joy, purpose, connection, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I already knew your story, so I've still got goosebumps just recalling our last conversation. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the kids a bit. What sort of age group are they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we give free trees to kids of all ages, K through 12, but most schools that enroll in our program tend to be the K through 5, K through 6 age range.
That's the kindergarten for non-Americans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Or what we call it nursery here.
Or okay. Yes.
Infant school.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're first approached with the idea of being given a tree to plant, what kind of things do they say and do?
The kids?
Yeah, the kids.
Oh, generally they're very excited. I mean, kids at that age, they love the idea of, they love nature, they're connected to nature. So that's what I remembered in college, was we'd go and deliver these trees at various schools, and the kids were just so excited, like my very own tree, right? I get to grow up with this tree, and they really start to take ownership of it, and they might name their tree and really develop like a relationship with their tree. And so the mission of Neighborhood Forest, we want to give every child in North America their very own tree to plant, eventually the world, and in the process, beautify our neighborhoods, reduce our carbon footprint, but hopefully plant the seed in the hearts of the children of loving nature more, and loving trees, and caring for the planet, instilling a sense.
At the moment, they get overwhelmed with the dark side of things, don't they?
Yes.
Destroying the environment, and even at that young age, it weighs on them hugely. So to be given almost an antidote to that's theirs, must be a very powerful experience.
I like to think so. Yes. Yes.
It's kind of unfair, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt, Vikas, but it's this whole thing about the damage we're doing to the planet from a very early age is probably not the most inspiring and best start, is it? What you're doing is so kind of wholesome and natural as a sort of counterpoint or complement to that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, we want to focus on the positive and what the kids and communities can do, and we're now in an age where it's easy to take a picture and share that picture. So over the last 10, 15 years, we have a growing library of these then and now photos of the kids growing up with the trees. We get to share that out. And that's, for us, that's really the, I don't know if that was my
No, me. I'm going to switch it
is
on.
that a sign for us to all pause for a moment and meditate? Because actually, before I forget, and I'd like to rewind a little bit, because Gary brings the most incredible people like yourself to our podcast. Because, and you mentioned the Maharishi University, which I can't let that pass without asking you a little bit more about that and what effect that may have had on you in being the person you are and the project you've created.
Oh yeah, profound effect. So my parents immigrated from India to Canada in the 60s, and my parents were always spiritual seekers, and especially my dad. He was always exploring different techniques for, deepening his awareness, spirituality. So when they moved to Canada, they actually heard about Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and transcendental meditation. Maharishi, became famous for bringing meditation to the West, influencing the Beatles and so forth. Yeah. So they became, for as long as I can remember, they were into transcendental meditation, and we were exposed to that sort of thing from a very young age. And Maharishi, in his organization, bought a bankrupt campus in Iowa in the early 70s to establish this university. And we visited there when I was like 4 years old in 1976. And my parents always had this thought that if they ever opened like a K through 12 school, that they would, send my brother and I there. And so in the early 80s, they opened up a school. And so when I was entering 6th grade, they just picked up and moved us there. And so I went to school there, and then I went on to the university. So yeah, that's something that hugely shaped me growing up in that community, being exposed to Eastern philosophical and spiritual thought and practice. Laid this very powerful foundation for me, even after I left there when I was around 24. So yeah.
Because we had a whole episode last time around Carl and my approach to meditation. Very similar but different. Do you still practice, if you don't mind me asking?
I do practice meditation and other forms of spiritual practice, like chanting and reflecting and journaling. I don't necessarily practice TM per se, but yeah, spirituality never left me. It only deepened, and my search, my quest for truth only expanded when I left Fairfield.
And you asked me, I asked you to give me some hints about what we should talk about. And one of the things you said was to ask you, do I believe in miracles, and have you encountered any?
Yes, I do believe in miracles. I feel like I encounter them all the time. I think that life itself is a miracle. All of creation is a miracle. Consciousness is a miracle. The fact that we exist is a miracle. The fact that I believe that God lives within each of us, and we have direct access to our Creator is a miracle. So those are the big overarching miracles, and underneath that, I feel like I've experienced many miracles throughout my life that are sort of as people will say, this God wink. God reminding us that He's in control, and there's a lot of beauty, wonder, serendipity, synchronicity, if we're open to it.
That's where I was going to take you next, is how you stay open to observing the, if you like, the universal miracles. Life itself is somewhat ridiculous concept. It seems to be inevitable in the universe, but very unlikely. And so how do you stay open to seeing things that are miraculous?
Yeah, I've always believed in God from a young age, probably because of the influence of my parents. And then growing up in this community in Iowa was very nourishing, nurturing, illuminating. Maharishi was all about higher states of consciousness, and using meditation as a path to enhance consciousness. Deepak Chopra, who had his start really in the TM movement, was coming to our campus and giving these really inspiring lectures.
Mm-hmm.
There are these bookstores in our town. You walk in this bookstore and there's just all kinds of spiritual books from all traditions, right? And being exposed to all of that, it was just really difficult. I'll tell you one story about what things that deepened my faith and opened me up to believing in the miracle of creation. So there's this bookstore in Fairfield, Iowa. It's no longer there. It was called 21st Century Bookstore, and it was like the quintessential New Age bookstore. Like you go in there and there's just every New Age book under the sun. And I must have been 16, 17 years old, and I'd go in there every now and again just to see if I'd find something interesting. But I stumbled on this book called Oneness. It was written by a man named Jeffrey Moses. And he actually was he lived in Fairfield. He was a meditator. But what he did, and you can find this book on Amazon. It's one of my favorite books. But basically what he did is he spent years combing through all the major world religions. And he basically found that, on each page there was like a theme. There were 64 common themes that run through all religions. And he was quoting just a one-sentence quote from every major religion on a given theme, like love thy neighbor, or, God is within you, the kingdom of heaven is within, these kinds of things. And I remember reading that. My mom was always both my parents were quite, what would I say, kind of proud of being Hindu, and were quite intent on making sure my brother and I identified with being Hindu. But after I read that book, I was like, they're all saying the same thing. The essence of religion is saying the same thing. So ever since then, I never liked being called a particular religion, or I didn't like having a label attached to my faith, because they're all saying the same thing. The other thing that really struck me is there has to be a God. How is it that you have all the religions essentially saying the same thing, different language, different time, different culture, different, right? They had no connection with each other per se, but they're all saying the same thing. So to me, I felt like truth is universal, truth is self-evident. God is finding a way to get his message to all the people, regardless of time, a language, and so forth. And so that's always stuck with me, is the unity of religions, the unity of God's message. And so that was the first example of me kind of searching for answers and finding them. And throughout my life, whenever I've longed for answers, or longed for understanding the reason why certain things happen, or the meaning of everything we see, I feel like God's spirit has always delivered for me. Not always immediately, but in some unexpected way, there was a response that illuminates and then reinforces my belief and my faith. And I would say that's what has kept me open.
Wow, lovely.
And
sorry to drop out. I was a real cliffhanger. I will watch the replay to find the answer to my question earlier on. So thanks for keeping it going, chaps. And look, Eric is live. Do you know Eric? Because
no, I don't. But I see that he went to Fairfield through Ragbri, this cycling tour.
Yeah.
And great. So he heard about this project, like the tree project, maybe? I don't know.
I think so.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Hi, Eric. Thanks for sharing.
Eric, great to see you here. Great to see you here. Could you give us the name of that book again? Oneness. Who was the author?
Jeffrey Moses.
Jeffrey Moses.
Okay, I should read it.
That's memorable, isn't it? Jeffrey Moses.
Yeah. I'm getting the feeling that what you just described, Vikas, is both a foundation to give you sort of personal security, but to mix my metaphors, it's also a springboard for doing things in your daily life and sticking with those things. Would that be close to the truth.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like reading that book whet my appetite. It helped me renounce my attachment to a religious label. It opened my heart to, uh, the fact that we're all children of God, and the message from the Creator is the same. And it's profound, it's simple, but it's also hard to do.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah,
That level of security must feel good.
absolutely.
You don't have to be questioning who you are, why you're here, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, that was the beginning. I mean, there's always questioning and doubts that come along the way. And I feel like as I persisted in my quest to know myself deeper and to know my Creator more intimately, like all those things have come to pass and continue to unfold in really beautiful ways.
Because you were mentioning the kind of the unity of different religions. I came at it from a different way, in that I set out to find what links people, what their non-negotiable core values are. And without going into the process, we can talk about that another day. But I discovered, to my surprise, that once you encourage people to go through some deep breathing and to really engage with compassion, everyone on the planet is connected by the same 9 or 10 non-negotiable core values. And they're not success, they're not achievement, they're the things you would expect: love, honesty, trust, family, faith, etc. It seems, again, like you were describing with religion, we interpret God differently, that's all. And then we have a cultural lens. And I think the non-negotiable core values is the same thing. We have the same values, but we exercise them in different ways. And sometimes they're also perturbed in some crazy ways that we're seeing at the moment. But that's my my real boots on the ground faith is that everyone I talk to, really deep down, connects with me on the same 9 or 10 things. And all we got to do is find at least one of those, and we're connected. And then all sorts of things can happen. And that's what kind of kicked off the Positive Echo.
Love it. Yeah.
Hallelujah. Gary, that is so profound, isn't it? It's so wonderful. And it perturbed. I mean, talk about a great British understatement. The situation is somewhat perturbed at the moment. But yeah, and it's as though, isn't it, that and we are those things. It's not just we want those things. We are those things. And left to our own devices and to connect with each other naturally and freely, it tends to happen, as we most of us know from the best times of our lives. And yet there's something, the perturbation is what seems to get in the way. And the important thing seems to be about seeing through that and maybe allowing it to dissipate or be somewhere else while we come into the core values you talk about.
And just doing the job of helping other people be in a better place, whether that's emotionally, physically, or what, Vikas, you're doing is helping them see the future. Because just to hold the moment for a moment, you remind me of the English aristocracy when they were building their grand stately homes, and the old story of they would plant avenues of trees, saplings, knowing that they and even their grandchildren would never see them fully grown. And you're kind of doing that in real life.
It really is.
You'll never see all these trees.
No.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's true. It takes a long time for trees to grow to maturity and for them to.
So I'm going to bring you to, where are we? This, which you posted on LinkedIn.
I can put it on the screen so you can
go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be the guy who pulls the rabbit out the hat.
There we go.
So we can't see all of it, but I'm going to pick a few things out. It says our growth and impact since 2020. There you go. Well, talk us through the slide. It's your stuff. Talk us through your slide.
Yeah. So we as I said, we give free trees to kids every Earth Day. We're focused here on North America, and we started in 2010, right? And with 4 schools in Minneapolis, we gave away 400 trees in our inaugural year. 1 tree for 400 kids for each of these 400 children. We didn't have a website. It was all done through paper and pen kind of forms and things. And not much happened for the next 11 years. I would say from 2010 to 2020. We grew a little bit. Like at our peak, maybe in 2018, 19, we gave away maybe 7,000 trees away, 6 to 7,000. So we grew from 400 trees in our inaugural year, and got to maybe 10, 15x of that, like 8, 9 years later. But it felt like a very slow growth, and to the point of like at the 10-year mark, I almost thought about shutting the program down because it just didn't feel like it was growing. I was like, at this rate, we'll never reach all the kids in North America. But my wife was really the one who urged me not to give up and to not get too attached to outcomes or how fast it was growing, and to just do it for the love of doing it. And that was really brilliant wisdom.
What an amazing wife you have.
She's an amazing wife. You might want to consider having her on your podcast at some point.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Interesting people.
Yeah. So she really urged me, and it was around that time. It was around 2019, about 10 years in, where I agreed with Priya. I sort of reluctantly said, okay, fine, I'll keep going. That's when these photos started to come in of kids who had gotten a tree from us in, say, 2012, 2014, and they had snapped a picture. Their parents had snapped a picture and sent an email to us. And I started reaching back out to them and said, hey, how's Bobby's little tree doing? How's Mary's little tree doing? And they would send me a current photo. And that's when, like, I was, my heart just melted, and, started to weep tears, because I was like, oh, this is working. Like, look at this beauty of seeing the child and their tree grow up over 5-10 years. And so that's when I was like, you know what, I don't care how many kids get trees. Even if one child has this experience, right, it's worth it. It's just such a joyful, it's so inspiring and motivating, for me at least. So that was in 2019, and then 2020 the pandemic hit, so we kind of shrunk because a lot of schools bowed out because of the pandemic. And but then in 2021 something very unexpected happened. We ended up going viral among librarians across North America, and we hadn't even been targeting librarians. I mean, we were trying to get trees in the hands of children through the school systems, public schools and private school, any school. But one library in Michigan reached out to us, heard about us somehow, and said, hey, can we give trees to kids in our community? We're not a school, but we'll give trees to kids. We're like, sure. And coincidentally, this was a library named after a tree, Tamarack District Library in Lakeview, Michigan. I actually had a chance to visit them in person just a month ago, which was really amazing. And then there happened to be a Facebook group of like thousands of librarians, and they ended up sharing about our program, saying, hey, we signed up for this program, looks really cool. And just like overnight, we grew more in a few days than we did in the first 11 years of our program. And so we ended up giving close to 20,000 trees away in 2021. And it's just kind of snowballed from there. As you can see from the bar chart, we've just been in very rapid growth. And this past Earth Day, we reached over 110,000 kids. We're in every state, plus almost every province. We've branched into Mexico. We've done some pilots in Ghana and Haiti. And yeah, we're on our way now to reaching every child in North America. And from there, we're going to expand to the rest of the world.
Incredible. Why Earth Day, Vikas? Because logistically, it might be easier just to keep sending out trees to kids they can plant on any day and give them throughout the year. But you bring everything together on one day, which must have it's good to have that focal point, but that must have some logistical challenges as well, presumably.
Yes, it is a lot. Well, spring is really the best time to plant trees and plants, especially in the northern parts of the United States.
Yeah.
We also, that whole month is considered Earth Month. That whole last week of April is considered Earth Week, starting with Earth Day Arbor Days last Friday in April, and we also inaugurated Neighborhood Forest Day on April 26th. That's our founding day. So that whole week is a day to celebrate the planet, celebrate trees and kids. So yeah, it's something we've done from the beginning. And each year, because we had this slow growth over so many years, and we've invested in automation and things. We've just gotten better and better at dealing with the scale of the program. But each year it presents new challenges, but we get better, we learn, we refine. The other thing I want to mention is, several years ago, some of our partners were asking us, well, what about kids who don't have a yard to plant a tree? Certainly not every child has the ability to plant their very own tree in their yard. Like, what about kids who live in apartments and condos? And that was a very good challenge to us. And a couple of years ago, we decided to launch an indoor plant program where we're giving succulents and little mini food forests to kids that they can care inside of their own home, regardless of their living situation.
Beautiful.
And by the end of this year, we'll have given almost 20,000 plants to kids across North America. Wow. So that's a new program that's growing. So now we really are set up to reach every child, regardless of whether they have a yard or not. So that's really exciting. It's been amazing to just see the interest from kids, schools, libraries, families, companies that are willing to support us, random families and individuals who are donating to our cause. It's really been an amazing coming together of, people and organizations from all different sectors and locations across the country and world.
And this is the 700,000 volunteers you were
yes,
yeah,
we've engaged almost 1 million volunteers. Soon it will be 1 million. It's really just a growing movement of people coming together to do something little that's going to have a big impact for years, decades, and maybe even generations.
And it's natural, isn't it? Going back to your wife's encouragement. Sorry, I keep referring to her as your wife. What's her name?
Priya.
Back to Priya's influence, her excellent influence on you, because
excellent.
Irrationally, the male mind, the human mind is like, this isn't working. I'm sweating away.
Yes.
They're like, why isn't it working? Like, pulling up a root to see.
Yes, exactly.
And then the divine feminine says, easy now. We've come this far. Wait, pause. You know what to do. I mean, she's just reminding you, right, of what you knew anyway, I think. And then the way this has grown, by the sound of it, is natural. It's exponential, because in nature, things don't grow like we want them to, do they? It's not like sequential and consecutive. It's like nothing seems to happen for a long time.
Yes, exactly.
We have to have faith.
Yes.
We have to relax. We have to breathe into it, be in it. And then, when a forest grows, it grows. And it's not a straight line, is it? And this is what seems to be happening to you now.
Yes, amen. You nailed it, Carl. Yeah, I mean, that was the great lessons when everything took off. It's like, oh, of course, it takes 10 years or more, right? You think about, how a human grows when they hit their teenage growth spurt. I mean, we were literally having a teenage growth spurt. If you look at a tree, like, the thing I would remind myself is, okay, a 12-year-old tree doesn't look that big. It's 12 years old. That's where Neighborhood Forest is, right? And now we're 16, 17 years old, and the tree is growing very fast. But even a 17-year-old tree is not that big. But it does kind of, certain trees will hit their stride then because their roots have went down deep or what have you. And then you get to 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Now you've got those Gary, you mentioned those trees that the English folk planted, with that in mind, like lining the streets. It's not until about that 40, 50-year mark where people come and are like, this is a beautiful neighborhood, or this is a spectacular tree, like the one behind me in this photo. Yeah, exactly, Carl. That was the thing. It hit me like, oh, here I am promoting trees and growing trees and teaching patience to the kids, and I myself was getting impatient.
Brilliant. Well, there you go. Coach Turner's here, with the man we call Coach Turner in our community. Afternoon, our local council have been giving trees to residents for the last couple of years. This is an idea whose time has come, right? This year, they are handing out over 60,000 baby trees.
Wow.
Love the idea of involving kids. So that's all citizens of Hertfordshire,
Beautiful.
or a part of Hertfordshire. Big shout out to Michigan too. I used to spend a lot of time there back in the day. So there you go. Some lovely connections today. Can I make a confession? Talking of trees and planting trees. Now, I had to hastily go to. This isn't why I crashed my connection earlier on. It was a coincidence, I'd like to think. Now, about 30 years ago, I used to be in like the construction business loosely. Like, I was doing home improvement. I did a bit of landscaping as well. When I remember landscaping somebody's garden, and they wanted these, what they probably described as horrible conifers taken out because they would just be, are these Leylandia? I'm not sure what they are. I couldn't bear to having taken them out of this garden to throw them away. So cheekily, this is the street I used to live on in a place called Sheffield in England. And I couldn't bear to throw them away. So I planted as many as I could. I used to drive out into the countryside. And it's probably wrong to just plant trees anywhere. But I also planted one on the corner of my street as an act of sort of guerrilla gardening.
Yeah.
And this is street view from, it might be chopped down now because I did chop a few trees down in Sheffield in Yorkshire. But this is 2022, some probably, nearly 30 years later. And it's grown so significantly.
That's fantastic.
No one dare chop it down. And I've never admitted it publicly that I guerrilla gardened this tree.
That's fantastic. Was it a little seedling when you planted it?
It was a whip of a thing. So it was like, this person said, I don't know if they bought the house, and Leylandia, quick fix cover, aren't they? Or windbreaks. But also, they've got a very bad reputation. People don't like them. They grow quick and they grow out of hand, and they're hard to manage after a certain point. So they take them away, and I couldn't just put them in the bin. So I was planting them wherever I could, including on this street corner.
That's fantastic.
Where presumably there was another tree that had been knocked down or chopped down, and here it is. I need a more recent photo, but 22 isn't too bad. So I confess to doing that live.
That's fantastic.
Now that next
great feeling, Carl.
Knocking the door, you know what that's going to be.
I'll come quietly.
It's a great feeling. That's what we want to give every child, that joy.
That's why I was, I was relating to that. Imagine the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 40-year-old former child that you knew that you gifted the tree to is growing up. This tree will dwarf them.
Yes.
And if they live in the same, if they turn out to live in the same family home, they'll be building a tree house in that tree for their kids.
Yeah, right.
And the thing that struck me about the connection between Vikas, your big story, and Carl, your story, and the idea of the positive echo is none of us are asking for anything. We're not getting money out of this. We're not necessarily getting fame out of it. We're just doing it because it feels like the right thing to do. And that builds trust in people, because there's no shoe that drops later. Oh, by the way, it's now going to cost you X. And that's a really important thing, I think, that is the antidote to the go-getting kind of overwhelm that our kids are overwhelmed with constantly. So more power to you.
And I've got to confess, Gary, at that point that I did it because it felt good, and the pleasure, the benefit, the reward was in the moment. It's not like I was selfless. I was quite sort of egotistical in a way. I'm going to do this regardless of what anyone else thinks. But I wasn't thinking of a long term. It was in the actual act of doing it was a pleasure. But no long term. I had no idea what would happen.
Yeah. Okay, so where are you going to go from here? Is it the whole world, Vikas? And the other question I was going to ask you was, everybody probably is asking, how are you a billionaire somehow and you're funding this out of your pocket? Who is helping? So if somebody wants to kind of take on your model in their country, how do you fund all these trees and getting them out there?
Yeah, well, we're a nonprofit, and so we fund all these trees through donations and partnerships. About 60-70% of our funding comes from corporate partnerships, and we've attracted some wonderful partners, some well-known brands like UPS, there's a couple of other companies like Chiesi and Deluxe Corporation, Ecolab. These are all people who are organizations and individuals that want to give back, that want to do good, that want to engage communities, right? And there's many other. They're on our website. You can go and there's a
and many of us are available, as they say.
yes, yeah. So yeah, you can see a lot of our corporate partnerships, and then there's individuals as well. About 20-25% of our funding comes from individuals and families. This past year, we had, I think, over 5,000 individuals and families donate on average about $15 to our program, right? So just a lot of small donations, and that continues to increase every year. And there's some individual philanthropists who contribute, of course, much more, similar to what the corporate partners are donating. So yeah, it's a constant. We have huge demand, growing demand for free trees. The word is out. The librarians have spread the word, and so now it's our job to make sure that we have the funds to purchase the trees, run our operation, and hopefully not have to turn any kids away. There's our amazing team. We have an amazing team. It's not a one person operation. Certainly Priya and I set the tone of the culture and the vision and the mission. But Clara, Danny, Sarvan, Trisha, Krishna, Alex, Chanel, Christine, Vincent, Will, Mac, David, they're the team that makes up the heart and soul of Neighbourhood Forest.
Beautiful.
And I know, Vikas, that teams are a really important part of your life as well, and that's the Key Hub side of things.
Yes.
I've sort of teased that. In a nutshell, what is Key Hubs and what does it do for organizations?
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't we tie it back to the trees? So, there's research that shows that in forest ecosystems, there's an underground hidden network of trees talking to each other and communicating to each other. And there are hub trees in a forest, like trees that are larger and have more access to light. And then you have like seedlings. And then underneath the soil, there's the mycelium, like the fungal network that connects the various trees. And they're all like communicating, sharing resources, like sharing sugar, nutrients. The trees provide nutrients to the fungal network, and the fungal network provides nutrients to the trees and takes excess from the hub trees and gives them to the seedlings. So like there's this beautiful network. Well, that same kind of network exists in groups of people and organizations. Organizations are like forests, and you have individuals that serve as hub trees, like the people who are influential, knowledgeable, who are like the informal influencers in the organization. And then you have connectors who connect these different hubs. You have the seedlings, like the new employees, and you have sort of the underbelly, people who are like talking at the water cooler, who are really the influence. So there's actually a really cool National Geographic video. I should find it, or you guys can share it maybe in your when you post this, that talk about this forest network and Key Hub. So Key Hub started around the same time as Neighbourhood Forest. It was born out of some stuff I had learned in business school when I went back to business school in 2006, 2007. This idea that we work in formal hierarchies. You have this org chart, but really the informal network of relationships in an organization really drives how work gets done and what the culture looks like. And I learned about this, and it just like a light bulb went off. I'm like, this is genius. I want to apply this where I was working at the time. And being a tech guy, software guy, I was looking for tools that would do this easily, effectively. When I didn't find what I was looking for, I was like, maybe I should build something. And that's how Key Hubs was born.
You did build it. You built it yourself.
Well, we have a team that built it, but I designed it, if you will, or conceived of it. Yeah, and that's how Key Hubs was started. So we built software that would map these networks. And so for the last 16 years, we've been going into organizations, big and small, and mapping the forest network inside organizations and helping leaders make better decisions about their people and teams, and using the informal networks to drive more effective change and positive momentum.
Oh my goodness.
So
it is stunningly powerful.
Is this how you two met in the first place, through this work?
Yes.
I met Vikas over coffee in Plymouth in Minnesota, just outside Minneapolis, and we chewed the fat for about 2 hours, and I came away hoping to be able to sell Key Hubs into the UK. I was unsuccessful, but that's not down to Key Hubs, that's down to me.
No, it's an interest. It's a concept that's been around for a while, but it's still relatively new to many leaders. And only certain leaders are attracted to this way of looking at their organization. It's sort of the leader that is interested in the connectional aspect of their organization. Not everyone's ready for it, but I think, Gary, I think I was on another podcast talking about networks and Key Hubs, and you heard this podcast and reached out to me.
Could well be.
So Gary has been a huge champion of my work. Long before he knew about Neighbourhood Forest, and we've stayed connected over the years. He's been a great friend, a great supporter, and this interview is no different. I just really appreciate Gary's heart and the great work he's doing and the positive echo that he's creating in the world.
Here. Gary knows a good idea when he sees one, that's for sure.
I do. And about the idea of networks is we in this podcast are a little hub. And you are a major influencer, and we're kind of facilitators of major influencers. What I'm hoping is enough people will see this over the coming years, maybe, and go, "Ooh, that's a bloody good idea. I could apply that concept of the network in this area."
Sure.
Because you say that only certain types of leaders really align with the idea of Key Hubs. And I think it's those that aren't ego-driven. They want to see the organization, whatever that is, succeed. It may be voluntary organization, it may be a formal business, but they're driven by the success of the whole and not the success of themselves. And once they see that, things like Key Hubs just become obvious. And they go, "Oh, I've got a new tool that nobody else is using. Wow, what a competitive edge." And that's what attracted me originally to try and spread the word. For clarity, I have no financial connection to or Key Hubs or the Neighbourhood Forest. I think that's important. Otherwise, it looks like a selling pitch, and I get nothing except a nice.
Me neither. I've only found out about it today, but I'm happy to sell it mercilessly because I love the idea. Now, Vikas, I've got a couple of questions on this.
Go for it.
Presumably because a company and a corporation are like an organic network coming together of people, and their performance relies on their connectedness, coherence, and so on. Is there an application for this in family units as well? Has anyone made a study of that, how it would work, how families are like trees as well, or a forest?
Yeah, it could be. We haven't done that kind of work, but there's a part of our work that involves providing like feedback to the leaders about their influence. So it's one thing to map the networks, but then it's also another thing to provide each node in that network insight into what their actual influence is versus what they think it is.
Oh yeah.
And I think in families that's really powerful, like the way a mom or dad might be showing up versus how the child is receiving it might be very different, or vice versa.
Absolutely.
So some of those principles are very translatable. Generally, when you're mapping a network, you want to have more than 10, 15, 20 people, because that's when the network gets interesting. So in a small family, the network may not be interesting, but the perceptions of each other could be very interesting and different than what each person thinks. And we have some tools that can help with that, but we haven't necessarily focused on families, but it could be extended to that.
And it could mesh nicely with family constellation work, because I think the family constellation idea and process tends to go outward in real time to the whole clan, but backwards and forwards in ancestry as well, doesn't it? So more players could come into that, couldn't they? Key Hubs meets family constellation would be quite extraordinary work. And healing, because I guess family constellation is used as healing and transformational work, and then that could go back into the corporate space where sometimes we're in corporations, we're held back, aren't we, by what needs to be healed or be aware of and then healed. And what a beautiful company that would be, that had an openness to seeing, what the blockages were and what could be done about them, rather than what Gary and I have done in corporations, which is to leave or work our way around them. If I may speak on your behalf there, Gary.
Well, it's all public knowledge.
Yes.
I even left my own business. So
that's drastic, isn't it? Well, you avoid yourself at work.
Yeah. Right. The boss was a swine. I just couldn't live with him.
I heard that. So nothing could be done with him, so you had to leave. Amazing. And one other quickie question: you mentioned a book earlier on? Was the book that sort of seminal book, the Andy Lipkiss book, The Simple Act of Planting a Tree?
For me?
Yeah, you said there was a book that came up that was sort of seminal in your thinking and the development. Because this one was for me, and I wondered if it was the same book.
Well, I mentioned oneness, right?
But there was a tree book before that, a tree planting book.
Was there?
Maybe not. Maybe I just implanted
there's the book.
Or I misunderstood it. I misunderstood what you were saying about a book from the past that was. I thought you said an author who spoke about planting trees, but I may be mistaken.
Well, David Kidd. David Kidd.
Okay.
Yeah, he did write a book. I forget. Apologize, I'm forgetting. But it was about his free tree program.
Okay, that's the one. Yeah, sorry, I thought Andy Lipkiss.
But we heard about his book before, after we heard about him. But yeah, he started the first American free tree program, and we modeled, and Neighbourhood Forest is essentially modeled after what he had created. He did it for like maybe 10 years or so in Ohio, and I'm still connected to him, and we acknowledge him because he's sort of the the godfather of this. Yeah, absolutely. We have his blessing and all that good stuff, but yeah, he's the reason Neighbourhood Forest exists, because of the work he did in Ohio back in the 80s and 90s, and bringing it to our college campus and all of that. So
wonderful. So could you say his name one more time?
Yeah, it's David Kidd, Kidd.
Okay.
And if you Google him and say like tree planting, you'll see the book that he wrote probably in the late 80s.
Right.
And it was about his whole journey of planting millions of trees in Ohio through this free tree program. Yeah.
How lovely. And you also reminded me of one of the greatest, films really, but it's an animation, The Man Who Planted Trees.
Oh yeah, that's a great book.
Jean Giono. What a beautiful, I mean, I still get teary watching it, over and over again. It's just so inspiring, isn't it? Because of I think what you referred to, Gary, that he wouldn't see what was going to be planted, would he? And when the government officials, and in his heart, and when the government officials came and said, well, we don't know what's caused it, he kind of just staged storm as like, okay, yeah, fair enough. It's fine. I'm good with all of this and all these trees.
Well, on that note, we're drawing towards the end of our time together. We always have one little bit of positive news, which I'll ask.
It's dessert, isn't it? It's not a palate cleanser because there's no taste we want to be changing or get rid of, because you are leaving such a fabulous aftertaste.
When our viewers, quite frankly, have watched somebody like you who's done the enormous thing, it can be, well, what can I do that would be a positive echo? So we usually finish with some things on a little smaller scale. And if you've got the link, Carl.
I do, and it should be on your screen. There it is as well.
So I sort of trawl the positive news websites the week before we do our podcast, and this just came out. This is a Texas mailman, and he adopts the beloved dog from his old route after its Vietnam veteran owner passes away. And basically he's saying that, the usual story about postmen and dogs is that dogs will attack postmen. But this particular dog is a cross between a German Shepherd and a Border Collie. And his first meeting with him was as a puppy, and they got to know each other and, engaged and so on. And when his owner, the veteran, died, it ended up in a shelter, and I think it was one day away from being euthanized. And he heard about it, and he went and rescued it. And it's just a nice little thing, not only to rescue the dog, but also to maintain the memory of the veteran, his friend. So we can do small things that make a big difference. And when they all add together, it's like a tsunami of positivity. And it's not just about being nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
All three of those people, the dog, the adopter, and the veteran, ended up in a better place, so to speak.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely.
I always invite people to just have a look at their own lives, pay more attention to their daily lives, and go, what little positive echo could I leave today?
There you go. And just
it's a good thing.
Thank you, Gary. And just to give this gentleman here his due credit, it's Ian Burke is the name of the mailman who first met the dog, whose name is Floyd, while delivering mail in Denton 3 years ago. As you say, German Shepherd Border Collie mix, came charging up behind him and introduced himself as only an energetic puppy can, and the rest is history. So that, and now they're reunited. That's fantastic. What's living together?
That's amazing. I love it.
Absolutely wonderful.
Can we leave Vikas with maybe one last message for the people who are watching?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Last word to you, Vikas.
Oh, I'm just grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for having me here to talk more about the story and the work we're doing at Neighbourhood Forest and Key Hubs, and would love to stay connected to you and to all the folks who've been listening. We'd love to connect, bring trees to your community, and help spread more joy, beauty, and goodness. Thank you.
How wonderful. Thank you so much. And there was some rapturous applause that I promised you, wasn't there? So I'm going to see if I can find that now. And thank you very much. Here we go. Thanks, Vikas. And lots of love to your wife, Priya, as well.
Yeah,
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Gary, too. Take care. Ciao, ciao.